As soon as photos of Jin allegedly coordinating with Jungkook's team from afar began circulating online, a wave of divided reactions quickly followed. While many fans praised Jin's efforts to ensure his youngest member's safety during his high-profile arrival in the US, a vocal minority questioned whether Jin was interfering too much in Jungkook's solo activities. The criticisms ranged from subtle digs on social media to more direct comments on fan forums, suggesting that Jin should let Jungkook stand on his own. But ARMY wasn't having it. Within hours, hashtags like #JinIsHisShield and #ProtectJungkookWithJin began trending on X, formerly Twitter, as loyal fans reminded the public of BTS's long-standing brotherhood and Jin's consistent role as the group's emotional anchor. Fans swiftly resurfaced past interviews where Jungkook himself admitted to relying on Jin during moments of anxiety, as well as emotional clips of Jin physically protecting Jungkook in crowded events. One viral post read, "This isn't interference. This is family. Jin's been his hyung since day one." Jungkook once said he might not have survived trainee years without Jin. Others pointed to the current danger Jungkook is facing in the US, especially with Seokjin fans already leaking his hotel information and recording him at JFK Airport. Jin, who has always been vocal about respecting idol privacy, was seen by many as stepping in not to overshadow Jungkook, but to shield him from emotional harm. "He's not managing Jungkook's career," one fan wrote. "He's managing his well-being. There's a difference." Insiders close to HYB have also allegedly confirmed that Jin's involvement was purely personal. A source claimed Jin didn't step in because of business. He called the team after seeing the Seokjin chaos. He just said, "Make sure he doesn't feel alone." Jin's quiet actions, booking a separate flight under a pseudonym, reserving a suite next to Jungkook's in New York, and messaging HYB behind the scenes, have since been praised as a show of real leadership. And perhaps more importantly, real love. As public discourse continues to unfold, one thing remains clear. To the fans who followed them since the beginning, this isn't about interference, it's about care. In the harsh world of fame, where young idols are often left to face stress and fear alone, Jin's presence is a rare kind of protection. A fan summed it up perfectly in a post that now has over 1.2 million likes. Jin isn't interfering. He's reminding Jungkook that even when the whole world is watching, someone is still watching over him. The heat of scrutiny didn't take long to rise. As fans around the globe buzzed with excitement over Jungkook's arrival in the United States, his first solo journey of this scale since BTS began focusing on individual projects, another narrative started brewing beneath the surface. While many were focused on potential collaborations and media appearances, others began dissecting the quiet but unmistakable involvement of Jin, the eldest member of BTS, who had been closely monitoring Jungkook's situation from the moment his plane landed. Whispers turned into heated discussions when fans discovered Jin had been in direct contact with HYB, urging for tighter security measures following the overwhelming Seokjin activity at JFK Airport. Videos showing Jungkook's visibly stressed expressions while surrounded by unauthorized fans and paparazzi reignited serious concerns about idol safety. But the moment Jin's efforts surfaced online, a small yet vocal group on social media began criticizing his actions, accusing him of hovering and not letting Jungkook grow independently. Some even suggested that Jin's gesture was unnecessary, arguing that Jungkook was capable of handling himself, especially after the maturity he had shown in the last few years through his solo achievements. These comments, however, sparked immediate backlash from the BTS fandom, ARMY. The response wasn't just emotional, it was grounded in history. ARMY was quick to remind the internet that Jin had always been Jungkook's pillar, long before any of them stood on international stages or earned global recognition. From their early trainee days, when Jungkook was just a quiet teenage boy far from home, to the grueling schedules of global tours, Jin had consistently looked out for him, not as a manager or supervisor, but as a brother. Fans began sharing clips from past-run BTS episodes, behind-the-scenes footage, and interview moments where Jungkook candidly spoke about Jin's influence on his emotional growth. "You don't outgrow family," one ARMY wrote in a post that gained traction within minutes. "Jin's not interfering. He's doing what he's always done, being the one who stands between Jungkook and the chaos." Another comment that resonated widely read, "It's not about control, it's about care." Jin isn't stepping on Jungkook's independence. He's protecting his peace. As the debate grew, even non-fans began chiming in, noting the unhealthy normalization of idol overexposure and the toll it takes on young artists. Industry observers pointed out that Seokjin culture had become increasingly dangerous with technology enabling flight tracking, hotel leaks, and real-time stalking. In that context, Jin's actions were not only warranted, they were necessary. Behind closed doors, sources within HYB reportedly confirmed that Jin had personally requested not to be publicly listed on any official schedules. His visit, they said, wasn't about media attention. It was about presence. He didn't want to interfere in Jungkook's planned interviews, rehearsals, or performances. He just wanted to make sure someone was close by if things spiraled out of control. What made the situation more powerful was that Jungkook, usually composed and collected in the public eye, made an uncharacteristically emotional post on Weverse just hours after arriving in New York. "Sometimes I forget I don't have to go through things alone," he wrote. The message didn't name anyone, but fans knew exactly who it referred to. BY Morning. The criticism aimed at Jin had mostly faded, overwhelmed by a wave of support and appreciation. Fans organized online threads labeled "Jin is a shield," detailing every instance where Jin had stepped in to quietly help, support, or emotionally rescue his younger members. The term began trending not just in South Korea, but globally, transforming what started as criticism into a celebration of brotherhood. In an era where idols are often expected to tough it out alone, where any sign of dependence is seen as weakness, Jin's action stood as a quiet rebellion. He reminded the world that caring deeply, even when it's inconvenient or misunderstood, is not a flaw, it's a strength. And perhaps the most touching moment came the next night, when fans spotted two silhouettes standing on a hotel rooftop in Manhattan, one slightly taller, the other standing just behind, hand on the younger's shoulder. There was no press release, no official camera, just two brothers looking out at the city. One preparing to take on the world, the other making sure he never had to do it alone. Jin never said a word to defend himself. He didn't need to. Jungkook's safety, his peace of mind, and his quiet gratitude were all the proof he would ever need. As the skyline of New York shimmered against the night, the rooftop moment between Jin and Jungkook remained unseen by most. But for the few staff members who happened to glance up, that silhouette, the two of them standing side by side, silent in their bond, spoke volumes louder than any statement a press release could provide. The next day, Jungkook emerged from his hotel with a quiet confidence that hadn't been there when he arrived. The security detail around him had doubled, fans noticed, and HYE had released a subtle update, requesting the media and public to refrain from approaching Jungkook at private spaces, such as his hotel or transit points. It was unusual for the company to act so swiftly, but insiders believe Jin's private conversations had played a key role in it. What most didn't know was that Jin had taken the step of personally requesting a roundtable discussion with the US promotional team managing Jungkook's schedule. Not to lecture, not to take control, but to ensure everyone involved understood the risks of overexposure and the real damage that unchecked Seokjin behavior could inflict, especially on someone like Jungkook, who still carried the weight of being the youngest in a group that shaped a generation. He didn't storm in as a celebrity. He entered the room as a brother. "Make sure he has breathing space," Jin reportedly said during the closed-door meeting. "You'll get the best version of him if you give him room to be human." Meanwhile, fans across the globe began picking up on subtle shifts in Jungkook's tone during public appearances. At a rehearsal sneak peek for an undisclosed American talk show, rumored to be The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, Jungkook joked to the production crew, "I brought my guardian angel with me this time." Though he didn't name anyone, the smile on his face and the glance toward the backstage curtain said more than words ever could. And Jin? He stayed out of frame, watching quietly, offering a nod of encouragement before fading into the background again. Even with his low-key presence, his influence was everywhere. Fans began noticing that Jungkook had stopped reading fan messages aloud during lives, a small but significant boundary likely encouraged by Jin. His team shifted his transportation routines to avoid predictable routes. For once, it felt like the idol's safety was being prioritized over spectacle. Back in Seoul, Korean news outlets began picking up the story, not from sensationalized paparazzi footage, but from the deeply emotional response fans had shared through Weverse and social platforms. They were no longer just talking about Jungkook's US visit or his potential collaborations. They were discussing the nature of protection, the unspoken ways idols like Jin step in when it truly matters, the veteran journalist from K-Media wrote in a commentary piece. What Jin did is not only commendable, it's revolutionary in an industry where the youngest are often left to face the fire alone. He reminded us that even in stardom, there should be sanctuary. And sometimes, that sanctuary looks like a hyung standing next to you in silence. Later that week, HYB released a behind-the-scenes photo from Jungkook's rehearsal. In the background, barely visible but unmistakably there, stood Jin, wearing a mask and cap, leaning slightly forward, watching his brother perform. The caption didn't mention him. It didn't need to. ARMY knew. They always do. And when Jungkook's performance finally aired to millions across the world, radiating energy, precision, and an unexpected emotional depth, the comment section filled with one recurring sentiment. He didn't do this alone. The story, by then, had become more than just another chapter in BTS's ongoing global journey. It had become a testament to the bond that refuses to break even under the weight of fame, pressure, and distance. Jungkook's voice reached new heights on that American stage, but it was Jin's silent presence that reminded the world of the foundation behind IT. As the applause rang out and the screens faded to black, somewhere backstage, two brothers met eyes for a brief second. No words, just that unshakable knowing. And in that moment, it was clear. No matter how far Jungkook flies, Jin will always be the wind beneath his wings. Later that night, while fans were still rewatching clips of Jungkook's show-stopping performance on The Tonight Show, a single post on Weverse quietly broke through the noise. It wasn't flashy, nor did it scream for attention. Just a candid photo. Jungkook sitting cross-legged on a windowsill, staring out at the New York skyline, the reflection of city lights casting a soft glow across his silhouette. The caption beneath it read, "Grateful for the ones who stay close, even in silence." ARMYs knew immediately who he meant. Behind the stage lights and global accolades, it was the quiet constancy of Jin that carried through. Not once did Jin step in front of the cameras. Not once did he use the moment to promote himself or insert his image into the spotlight. He didn't need the world's attention. He only needed Jungkook to feel safe, steady, and seen. This silent devotion, this unspoken loyalty, resonated deeply with fans who had watched them grow from boys to men. From the early debut days, when Jin would prepare extra food for Jungkook after late-night rehearsals, to this very moment in America, their bond had endured. It wasn't loud. It wasn't performative. It was real. Media outlets, finally catching on to the emotional undercurrent, began to shift the narrative. Headlines changed from sensational stories about Seokjin and speculation to human stories of trust, support, and familial love. One headline from a popular entertainment portal read, "Not just BTS members, brothers for life. Jin protects Jungkook in US from shadows." Meanwhile, insiders confirmed that Jungkook's team had made adjustments to his remaining American itinerary, with several activities now strictly private or undisclosed until after completion. It was a move that clearly had Jin's fingerprints, tactical, firm, protective. The kind of planning that doesn't come from managers under pressure, but from someone who knows what being vulnerable under public scrutiny feels like. Still, Jin's presence wasn't just about defense. It was about grounding. Jungkook had long admitted that his biggest emotional challenges often came not from the performances or the music, but from the loneliness that fame breeds. And in this moment, when he was once again surrounded by noise, flashing lights, and strangers chasing his shadow, he wasn't alone. On the final night before Jin was scheduled to fly back to Seoul, the two of them were reportedly seen entering a small, tucked-away Korean restaurant in the East Village.
No fanfare, no entourage.
Just two brothers sharing dinner like they used to in the trainee dorms. Witnesses said they laughed quietly, talked slowly, and stayed until the staff politely dimmed the lights to close. Jin flew out early the next morning. No cameras, no goodbye photos. Just a quiet exit, the way he came. Later that day, Jungkook posted one last message on Weverse before heading to his next schedule. It was simple but powerful. "Young, I hope you know how much stronger I feel when you're near." Fans around the world paused. This wasn't just a throwaway sentiment. It was a declaration, an acknowledgement of the kind of strength that doesn't come from fame or skill, but from love. It was also a reminder that in a world as fast and loud as theirs, the most meaningful gestures are often the quietest. And somewhere, likely already back in Seoul, Jin probably saw that message, maybe while sipping coffee or staring at the early morning sky.
He wouldn't comment.
He wouldn't post. But maybe he smiled. Not out of pride, but because he knew he had done what a brother is meant to do. He had shown up, without needing to be seen. And in that, Jin reminded the world of something BTS has always stood for. Fame can create idols, but family, real brotherhood, is what makes them human.